pruning grapes and separating viola seedlings. These are two small jobs that honestly can change everything in your garden. Every garden has those moments where small actions create massive results. Not fertilizers, not expensive tools, just simple hands-on care done at the right time. Today on Soil Factor, we're talking about two of the most underestimated skills in gardening, pruning grapes and separating viola seedlings. They look unrelated, a woody vine and a tiny flower, but both teach the same lesson. Plants don't fail because they're weak. They fail because they're crowded. Grapes overcrowd themselves with branches. Violas overcrowd themselves with roots. Your job as a gardener is not to grow plants. Your job is to guide energy. Let's start with grapes, the plant that scares beginners the most. Why most grapevines produce leaves instead of grapes? If your grapevine grows like crazy but barely fruits, you are not alone. Almost everyone experiences this in the first few years. Here's the truth. Grapes grow fruit only on new shoots that come from last year's wood. That means if you don't prune, your plant becomes a jungle of old wood, shade, and useless growth. The vine keeps feeding leaves because it has too many mouths to feed and not enough sunlight inside the canopy. Pruning isn't punishment. Pruning is directing food. When you remove wood, you are not harming the vine. You are telling it exactly where to send its energy next season. The right time to prune grapes. The best moment is when the plant is fully dormant, after leaves drop but before strong new growth starts. In warm climates, this usually means late dry season or the coolest part of the year. You'll know the vine is ready because it looks lifeless. That's perfect. Inside, it's storing sugars in the roots, waiting for instructions. Your pruning cuts become those instructions. If you prune too early, the vine wastes energy healing. If you prune too late, it bleeds sap and weakens. Dormant pruning gives clean healing and powerful shoots. Understanding the parts of the vine so you don't have to just guess. Before cutting anything, slow down and observe. The thick, permanent trunk is the backbone. From it grow arms called cordons. From the cordons grow last year's canes, those long brown sticks. From those canes will grow this year's fruiting shoots. Beginners make one big mistake. They keep too many canes. The vine then spreads energy across 40 weak shoots instead of 12 strong ones. Weak shoots mean tiny grapes. You are not reducing harvest by cutting hard. You are concentrating harvest. So, let me tell you how I actually prune my grapevines. First, I start by removing dead wood completely. If it snaps dry, it goes no questions asked. Then I remove crossing canes. You know, anything that's rubbing against another branch, because that just creates wounds and, well, a doorway for disease. Now comes the real decision, choosing fruiting canes. I keep strong canes, about the thickness of a pencil to a small finger. Anything thinner just won't support good clusters, and anything too thick, well, that becomes vegetative and not what we want. Each selected cane gets shortened to just a few buds. This right here is where the magic happens. Those buds will wake up and become fruiting shoots. The rest, and I really mean most of it, gets removed. When you finish pruning, the vine should look almost empty. Beginners usually panic at this stage, but experienced growers, they smile because they know what comes next. Explosive, healthy growth. So, what happens after proper pruning? In spring, the plant wakes up with a clear map. Instead of feeding a whole forest, it focuses on just a few strong shoots. Sunlight reaches every leaf, air flows freely, and disease drops dramatically. Clusters become larger, sweeter, and they ripen evenly. The first time you do a hard prune, it feels all wrong. But that first harvest after, well, it feels unbelievable. Now, let's move to the opposite end of gardening. Tiny violas. Why do viola seedlings suddenly stop growing? Violas, germinate beautifully. A tray just becomes a carpet of green life. Then, well, something strange happens. They stall. The leaves stay small. The colour fades just a bit. Some even collapse, even though you're watering correctly. The problem, honestly, is invisible root competition. Seedlings are polite for about, 2 weeks. After that, they really start fighting underground. Each root tries to occupy the same soil pocket, stealing nutrients and oxygen. More seedlings, believe it or not, do not mean more flowers. More space means more flowers. Separating them early is the difference between weak bedding plants and dense blooming clumps. When should you separate viola seedlings? The perfect moment is when the seedlings have their first true leaves, not those round baby leaves, but the next set that looks like a tiny version of the adult plant. At this stage, roots are long enough to survive moving, but not tangled enough to break. Wait too long, and well, you'll tear roots apart. Move too early, and they just lack strength. Timing here is honestly everything. The gentle way to separate them, with no damage and no shock, starts by watering the tray lightly first. Moist soil holds roots together and prevents snapping. Then tip the tray and slide out the soil block into your palm. Don't pull plants individually from dry soil. That's how roots rip. Now slowly crumble the soil apart using your fingers. The seedlings will naturally separate. You'll see each one has its own tiny root thread. Handle leaves, never stems. A bent stem is permanent damage. A bent leaf is temporary. Replant immediately into new soil and press gently around the base. Not tight, just enough to remove air pockets. The entire process should feel slow and calm. Plants sense rough handling through root breakage, not emotion, but the result looks the same. Transplant shock. Aftercare that prevents wilting is, well, pretty important. Freshly separated violas hate strong sun for 2 days. Give them bright shade. Water lightly, not heavily. The roots need oxygen more than water right now. Overwatering suffocates them because they temporarily lost root mass during separation. Within 3 days, you'll see leaves lift upward again. That's the moment roots have grabbed new soil. After 1 week, they grow faster than they ever did in the tray. There's a hidden connection between these two tasks. Grapes taught us to remove excess branches so energy concentrates. Violas teach us to remove excess neighbours so roots expand. Both are really the same gardening principle. Growth depends on space, not effort. You know, many gardeners keep adding fertiliser, trying to fix problems caused by overcrowding. But plants don't lack nutrients. They lack room to use them. Your hands solve what products cannot. Here's a simple seasonal rhythm to remember. Prune woody plants during rest so spring growth explodes with direction. Separate seedlings during early growth so maturity arrives without stress. If you follow just these two habits consistently, your garden starts looking professional without you changing anything else. You'll notice stronger stems, deeper colour, fewer diseases and more flowering. Not because you became advanced, but because you stopped plants from competing with themselves. Final thoughts. Gardening mastery is not complicated. It's observation plus timely action. Cut what is excessive. Space what is crowded. Whether it's a vine that lives decades or a flower that lives a season, plants respond the same way. They reward clarity. The moment you stop feeling guilty about removing growth is the moment your garden transforms. If this helped you see your plants differently, then you're already growing with the Soil Factor mindset. Subscribe to Soil Factor, share this with a fellow gardener who struggles with leggy grapes or stunted seedlings, and let's keep learning how soil, roots, and simple actions shape powerful gardens.